Hello and welcome to This Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here today because we are diving into something truly fascinating. We're going to explore the incredibly rich history of the Telangana region, but we're doing it through a very specific lens. You see, we aren't just going to memorize a bunch of dates or names from a dusty history book. Instead, we're going to look at how this history was physically built, literally layer by layer from the ground up. We'll explore how sweeping dynasties shaped this very region through iconic, monumental structures, leaving a physical legacy that continues to define the landscape today. It's a journey from ancient forts straight through to modern cities.
So, think about this for a second. How exactly do ancient stone circles evolve into a bustling global IT megacity? Right? It doesn't happen overnight, and it definitely doesn't happen by accident. Every single ruling era laid down a new foundation, introduced a new architectural style, and engineered the land in completely new ways. It's this incredible story of continuous evolution, stretching from prehistoric rocks to impenetrable ancient forts, all the way to the towering high-rises and massive infrastructure we see today.
Okay, let's just lay out exactly where we're headed. We've got 5 distinct eras to cover: ancient foundations, the Kakatiya fortresses, Charminar and Islamic architecture, integration in statehood, and finally, engineering modern Telangana.
Let's start right at the beginning. Part 1. Ancient foundations, before the forts.
Just to help wrap our heads around the sheer scale of the history we're talking about, here is a quick chronological roadmap. We are spanning thousands of years here, jumping from the Satavahana Dynasty all the way back in the 3rd century CE, leaping ahead to the Kakatiyas in the 12th century, moving into the Qutb Shahi era in 1518, through the region's integration into India in 1948, and finally arriving at the official formation of the Telangana state in 2014. It is a massive sweep of time.
But actually, even before any of those early kingdoms took shape, the absolute earliest physical markers of civilization in this region were simply stones. Specifically, megalithic burial sites, things like stone circles and dolmens, scattered all across the lands near the Godavari and Krishna rivers. This was literally the very first human footprint here. Later on, early kingdoms like the Satavahanas stepped in and began promoting trade, Buddhism, and culture, leaving behind coins and inscriptions. Then, later dynasties like the Ikshvakus and Vishnukundans started constructing the region's early temples. The basic building blocks of a civilization were finally being laid. It's just wild to think that the exact same ground housing today's ultra-sleek tech parks started with these simple, rough-hewn stones.
Moving right along. Part 2. The Great Kakatiya Fortresses, shaping the land.
Now, what's really interesting about the Kakatiyas, who ruled from the 12th to the 14th century, is that they didn't just build monuments. They fundamentally engineered the land itself to serve the people. Ruling from their capital in Warangal, they constructed the incredibly massive Warangal fort, which was a true architectural marvel of defense. But honestly, their most impactful legacy was agricultural. They built these extensive, brilliant irrigation tanks known as cheravos. And these weren't just simple ponds, okay? They were vast, highly networked water management systems that strengthened agriculture and literally sustained local communities for centuries. A real game changer.
And, we absolutely cannot talk about this era without highlighting this specific, fascinating historical detail. The Kakatiya dynasty was heavily shaped by the reign of Queen Rudramadevi. To put that into perspective for a second, while much of the medieval world was strictly patriarchal, she stood out as one of India's very few powerful female rulers. Alongside her successor, Prataprudra, the Kakatiya period was this absolute golden age for promoting Telugu culture and architectural might. That is, right up until the dynasty eventually fell to the Delhi Sultanate in 1323.
Which brings us to Part 3, Charminar and Islamic architecture, a huge cultural shift.
So, the region's integration into the Delhi Sultanate and later the Bahmani Sultanate introduced Persian culture and absolutely stunning Islamic architecture to the area. But the real explosion of structural development happened after Sultan Qutb Shah founded the Qutb Shahi dynasty in 1518. They went all out. They built the heavily fortified, sprawling Golconda fort, which became their initial capital, and then they constructed what is arguably the most famous silhouette in the entire region, the legendary Charminar. Under their rule, Hyderabad didn't just get new buildings, it completely transformed into a major cosmopolitan trading hub, promoting this beautiful, unique blend of Telugu, Persian, and Urdu cultures.
Eventually, the Qutb Shahi dynasty was defeated by the Mughal emperor Aurangzeb in 1687. Following that, the region came under the rule of the Nizams, the Asaf Jahi dynasty, starting around 1724. They established an independent Hyderabad state, making Urdu its official language. Now, it's important to note this era was heavily defined by the Jagirdari system. Think of it as a very strict feudal system. While it definitely maintained order, it ultimately led to highly limited education and development out in the rural parts of Telangana. This created a pretty sharp divide between the gleaming, wealthy capital and the surrounding countryside.
That takes us to the 20th century. Part 4, Integration and Statehood, Redrawing the Map.
Now, redrawing the physical and political map of the region wasn't some overnight change. It was a deeply complex political struggle spanning several decades. First up, you have the fierce, peasant-led rebellions against landlords in the 1940s, culminating in Operation Polo in 1948, which integrated Hyderabad state into India. Then in 1956, the region was merged to form Andhra Pradesh. But the desire for independence remained strong, leading to the first major Telangana movement in 1969. Fast forward to the 2000s, and the movement was powerfully revived with massive protests and student hunger strikes under the leadership of K. Chandrasekhar Rao. Finally, after years of relentless momentum, mass mobilization, and complex political navigation, Telangana officially became a separate state in 2014.
And here we are today, Part 5, Engineering Modern Telangana, Building for Tomorrow.
All of that long, complex struggle finally culminated on June 2, 2014. On that day, Telangana officially became India's 29th state. They kept the historic, architecturally stunning city of Hyderabad as their capital, and K. Chandrasekhar Rao stepped in as the very first chief minister.
And this right here brilliantly illustrates that continuous thread of history we've been talking about this whole time. Let's do a quick comparison. Back in the 12th century, the Kakatiya Dynasty engineered the land using those stone irrigation tanks, the cheruvus, to support local agriculture. Well, today, the modern state of Telangana is doing the exact same thing, but on an absolutely unprecedented scale. Have you heard of the Kailasharam lift irrigation project? It is a massive, statewide engineering marvel. The tools have certainly changed, from hand-carved stones to advanced hydraulics, but that core legacy of engineering water to sustain the land, it remains exactly the same.
So today, the state is this completely fascinating blend of the ancient and the cutting edge. The modern development focus is heavily driven by rapid information technology growth in Hyderabad, quite literally creating a skyline of glass and steel that rivals any global city. But just as it was centuries ago, there's still a massive focus on revitalizing agriculture, building out huge infrastructure projects, and implementing major statewide welfare schemes. They're actively honoring their deep agricultural roots while simultaneously building a towering modern economy.
Which leaves us with this final thought to ponder. We've seen how the Satavahanas laid the initial roots, how the Kakatiyas literally shaped the earth with their forts and tanks, how the Qutb Shahis reached for the sky with the stunning Charminar, and how a decades-long struggle carved out a brand new modern state. From ancient stone forts to modern tech hubs, the evolution just never stops. So, looking at the towering cranes and the bustling IT parks of today, what physical legacy will today's Telangana build for tomorrow? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today. Keep questioning, keep exploring, and I'll see you next time.